Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. I know you have a lot of places you could be, but I just wanted to have an opportunity to share some perspective on Mother's Day. Two things first. My husband who's here couldn't really understand. He couldn't hear the word Namaste, and he says, "Mama's Day? Mama's Day?" Well, actually, yes, it is. So yes, but also I didn't read the daily word today, but it's a lot of what I'm going to share today does resonate exactly with that. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with the origins of Mother's Day, but Mother's Day was started by and founded by a woman named Anna Jarvis to honor her mother, Anne Reeves Jarvis, way back at the turn of the century. And her mother was an activist and anti-war proponent, and she actually coordinated marches and gatherings of mothers to protest the war during the Civil War, American Civil War. And in 1870, Anne Jarvis actually identified a day of Mother's Day, but it didn't really take hold. So her daughter Anna, in 1908, decided to make a Mother's Day in acknowledgement of her mother. This was, however, 3 years after her death. And then in 1912, actually trademarked the term Mother's Day in America, as well as second Sunday in May. And so since that time, there are a number of other countries, about 84 other countries actually share the second Sunday in May as an acknowledgement of Mother's Day. And most other countries and cultures and religions do acknowledge Mother's Day in some way. Anna Jarvis identified the white carnation as the symbol of Mother's Day. And I want to read you why. So she says, "Its whiteness is to symbolize the truth, purity, and broad charity of mother love. Its fragrance, her memory, and her prayers. The carnation does not drop its petals, but hugs them to its heart as it dies. And so too, mothers hug their children to their hearts, their mother love with the dying." So as you can imagine, once this day was identified in the early 1900s, there was a lot of commercialization around it, and you guessed it, Hallmark was involved in that, and the candy companies, and the florists. And the cost of the white carnation actually went through the roof in May. And Anna Jarvis was very incensed by this. She revolted against the commercialization of Mother's Day. And she also revolted against the pre-printed cards that Hallmark created. So her negative opinion of this commercialization, she says, "A printed card means nothing except that you're too lazy to write to the woman who has done more for you than anyone in the world." So you're getting a little taste of Anna, aren't you? And she says, "And candy. You take a box to mother and then you eat most of it yourself." A pretty sentiment. So while others profited from the day, Anna Jarvis did not. She actually died penniless. And she tried to rescind Mother's Day. But instead, she was placed in the Marshall Square Sanitarium in Westchester, Pennsylvania. And guess who paid for her bills to stay there?
Oh, the children.
The candy companies, the florists, and the greeting card companies. So unfortunately, she did spend her later years of life there, as well as with her sister Lily. And she never married and never had children of her own. So before we go further into the divine motherness of Mother's Day, I just wanted to share a couple of the life influences that led me to unity. My mother's family was Mormon. They actually came to Salt Lake City from Scotland in 1852, and they came specifically to join the Mormons in Salt Lake, to join Brigham Young. They were handcart pioneers. They walked across the country pushing handcarts, and my 4 times great-grandmother actually died along the way. There's a monument at Chimney Rock on her behalf, actually. And so I was raised in the church, And one of the things that I really appreciated about Mormonism is the charity. They place a high value on family, charity, and service. They have a lot of determination. One of their phrases was "Keep your eyes on Zion," which was part of their affirmation as they were pushing their carts across the country. And "Put your shoulder to the wheel, push along." We had a song like that when we were raised. And my mother's family was actually pretty high profile in Salt Lake City. My grandfather, her father, William Murdoch, was the Commissioner of Finance and was mayor of Salt Lake City for a period of time, and actually was elected to become a United States congressman representing the state of Utah, but he had got pneumonia and died before he was able to do that. But the family business was Murdoch Grocery, and this was, of course, at the height of the Depression. And the Murdoch Grocery would leave anonymous bags of groceries on the doorsteps of people who had nothing. The Mormon Church has something called Deseret Industries, which also, as I recall growing up, would see these big trucks pull up to people's homes and start unloading food and furniture and clothing and things to those who had lost their jobs or were in need in any way. So a lot of these influences affected me, just the knowledge of my family's history, as well as what I experienced in the church. But my fascination actually was more with the esotericism and the symbology, including things like the golden oxen, the bee and the beehive, and the Star of David, which is actually worked into the sacred architecture of a lot of Mormon temples. And we weren't strict Mormons at all. My mother was what's called the Jack Mormon, because she drank her wine at night and her coffee in the morning. And my father was never fully converted, although the young missionaries that came to our door certainly tried hard to turn him. But my parents were a little bit more metaphysical than that. And the books at their bedside were, and I'm sure you've heard of some of these, The Power of Positive Thinking by Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, and of course the Daily Word. So these were some of the influences. And then when my dad died when I was 15, I established some mental blocks at school, and that's how I found Transcendental Meditation, TM, at the time. This was in the early 70s when that was starting to explode. And in fact, one of our next door neighbors was one of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi's right-hand men. And so we had a gathering in our home, and I was exposed to it. But it was through TM that really opened me to ways of being and experiencing the breath, as well as taught me consciousness of the moment. And then when I got married, my husband at the time and I explored a lot of alternative thought and spirituality, such as the Theosophy of Blavatsky, the Fourth Way of P.D. Ouspensky, mysticism of Gurdjieff and the Enlightened Masters, Rudolf Steiner and his alternative educational models, and of course naturopathy, veganism, holistic health, and homeopathy. And we were also involved with Self-Realization Fellowship, SRF, the Lake Shrine up in Palisades. And Paramahansa Yogananda, the founder of SRF, of course, brought together Eastern thought with Western thought. So then we moved to Culver City in 1992 during the riots that some of you may remember. We found our spiritual home here too. My son Alex was supported by letters and packages sent to him while he was a United States Marine in Iraq in 2003. And Maxine Wood was one of the forces behind those letters and packages for him. My daughter Natalie was the youth Sunday school teacher and coordinator for many years, and she started doing that when she was just a teenager. My daughter Anna, who's here today, wasn't too active here, but when I asked her what she remembers, she said she recalls the lessons and the food. And then my daughter Lily, who a lot of you know has grown up here and is now serving as our church administrator until she moves to Portland to go to university there, and there is a Unity of Portland, Lily. check it out. So today's Mother's Day talk has been many years in the making for me because I've been coming to Westside Unity for a long time. And the different styles and content of Mother's Day have been shared. But while we do honor our mothers, not everyone has had the June Cleaver experience of a mother. And the emphasis on biological motherhood I really wanted to get away from today. So of course, topics for inspiration, Mother Nature, Mother Earth, some inspiration from my mother's sayings. Of course, recalling them, I remember the disciplinary ones, like, wipe that smirk off your face, young lady, or I'll do it for you. You're going to do it whether you like it or not. You're going to eat it whether you like it or not. And my favorite, which is actually very perplexing, is you're going to like it whether you like it or not. So I'm still trying to figure that one out. But of course I do reflect on the uplifting and positive phrases. Remember your ancestors, which was very relevant for us. Respect your elders. Rise and shine, Palomine, and kill them with kindness, which has come in handy. But I did land on divine motherhood, because divine motherhood is active in all. All are able and do express qualities of motherhood, divine feminine, the divine mother, as caretakers, friends, being loving, giving, considerate, being of service to others, and being kind. And each of you, regardless of your sex, your age, your status in life, you express the creativity of divine mind, manifesting and giving birth to divine ideas. Charles Fillmore actually defines divine motherhood as the brooding, nourishing element of divine mind in which spiritual ideas are brought to fruition. And every culture in the world and every religion has symbolic representation of Divine Mother. It's called by many names and is pictured in countless forms and symbols. But throughout all of these, Divine Mother is Mother God, the Divine Feminine. In Catholicism, Christianity, the Virgin Mary, Blessed Mother of Jesus. In the Jewish faith, Shekinah, the womb of creation. The open hand and healer of the heart is Fatima in Islam. And in the Hindu religion, Parashakti, which is the supreme name of Divine Mother, and it takes many, many forms. The qualities of Mother God are consistent: grace, love, nourishment, nurturing, compassion, creativity, and the ability to unify, all represent the expression of Divine Mother through us. So today, though, I want to focus on kindness as a quality of Divine Mother. And the root of the word kind actually is similar to that for Kinder, the German word for child. And Kind, kin, family, was the Old English definition, meaning with the feeling of relatives for each other. So this expression of kindness to family is an example of how we can expand that to others and for others as we encounter them in our immediate community. We are responsible for the experience that others have of us. And so how we show up, how we choose to relate to others, and how we choose to react to them, how we create our energy and share it, is our responsibility. So essentially, regardless of our worldly accomplishments, there can be no peace of mind until we establish an authentic sense of community with one another. And in Meditations of the Heart, Howard Thurman notes, community is the native climate of the human spirit. Love that. It is for this reason that we see most our true selves when we are deeply involved in relations with other selves. And connection with one another is key. When you interact with someone, even if they're at a distance, feel the connectedness. Imagine a cord between you and others. It's visceral. You can sense it. You can feel it. Become familiar with that energy. Emily Cady writes in How I Use Truth, in Christ, or in the consciousness of the indwelling divine spirit, we know that every man and woman is our father and mother, brother and sister, that nothing is our own, that all is God's, because all is God. And Mother Teresa wow, we could do a whole series on her. But one of her quotes that I really like is, if we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten that we belong to each other. So what can kindness look like? We kind of have a general idea. But Mother Teresa says it starts with a smile. Peace begins with a smile. Every time you smile at someone, it is an action of love, a gift to that person, a beautiful thing. Take a moment, connect. And non-random intentional acts of kindness. Non-random, which means that it's centered in your intention and your focus. For example, make eye contact and smile at the grocery store checker. While sitting in traffic, you glance at the person next to you, in the car next to you. If you exchange eye contact, just smile. Say hello to the person you pass on the sidewalk. Say, excuse me, if you step in front of someone. Teach your children and grandchildren to say, excuse me, when they ride their bike or skateboard on the sidewalk. That's a big one for me. Take a moment to remember who you truly are and connect. This is our opportunity to be an individualized expression of God. We say it every week. This is your opportunity to affirm it in those opportunities and moments. And then, of course, the expression of random acts. We've all heard about random acts of kindness. These are rooted in the inspiration and movement of the Divine Mother within you, manifesting in the moment. So, a couple of examples. Pay for the coffee or some of the groceries for the person behind you in line. Anonymously pay for someone's meal in a restaurant. Leave a thank you note for someone providing you with service of any kind. Give someone else the parking space that you've been waiting for. Offer to help an elder put their groceries in the car. There's a lot of grocery references, I noticed. Offer your seat to someone on public transportation. These are expressions of not only the Divine Mother, but the grace and love from the Christ within, which is meant to be shared. So, some of you may be familiar with the KIND movement. It's a coalition of organizations working together to inspire kindness in the world. And I have a little something for each of you. So if the ushers could please help with this. So these are KIND bars. And I'm sure you've all seen them around. But if you could please, actually, we probably have enough for 2 each. So if you could each take, here, I'll do 1, 2, 2. If you can each take 2. So you will keep one for yourself, and what will you do with the other one? Give it away. So I'll tell you a little bit about this KIND movement. There's this KIND Products is one of the partners, and you can go on kindsnacks.com, and they have all kinds of things that you can do to be kind. I've mentioned a number of them today, but that's because that's partly from my experience as well. The KIND campaign is another one of the partners. And the KIND campaign is bringing awareness and healing to the negative effects of girl against girl bullying through a global movement and educational curriculum. Another one of the partners is the Friends of the Dalai Lama, and their focus is that the path to world peace is creating a culture of kindness in the schools. But at its core is a program called the City of Kindness. So Tom Tate was a man who lived in Anaheim, city of Anaheim here, Southern California, and he noticed these banners around town that say, "Make kindness contagious." So he did a little investigation, and he found out that the man who was putting these up around town was a doctor by the name of Chayefsky, Dr. Chayefsky. And Dr. Chayefsky's 6-year-old daughter had died of an illness. And during her very brief life, she used to talk about kindness and write about kindness. And so he wanted her legacy to continue. And in the course of finding out about that, he started thinking, well, cities are like families or like people. And so a city is like a body. Healing from within can be achieved. And that was also Dr. Chayefsky's focus as well. He knew that medicine could either treat symptoms or help the body stimulate itself to heal from within. So Tom Tate started thinking about the city as a body, and that he felt that he could heal the city from within using the core value of kindness. So he actually ran for mayor on a platform of kindness. Guess what? He won. Wow. So he started something called Hi Neighbor, which encourages people to get to know one another, to be kind to each other. He's trying to establish a culture of kindness, which overcomes anger and fear. One of the things that they've noticed in this process is that calls to the principle for discipline and suspensions have been cut in half. There are other metrics as well that they're watching. But one of the things they implemented actually in the city of Anaheim was 1 million acts of kindness. And you can go online and you can report your act of kindness, and there's a counter that spins. And for every one that's entered, the counter spins. Well, Culver City has also announced that they would like to be part of this program as well. And my feeling is that, yes, absolutely, every opportunity for kindness. The intention is pure, expanded awareness of community activities that generate kindness among its citizens is actually wonderful. Reporting the good deeds and needing to have a metric for it, in my mind, is not necessary for us as individuals. We need to be sharing kindness without any expectation of return, without any expectation of acknowledgement, without any expectation of the count. And Mother Teresa, again, has this great phrase, this great little paragraph. She says, to the effect of that kindness does not have to be measured. She says, I'm not sure exactly what heaven will be like, but I know that when we die and it comes time for God to judge us, he will not ask, how many good things have you done in your life? Rather, he will ask, how much love did you put into what you did? So why do we express the Divine Mother through acts of kindness? Well, for one thing, it really feels good. and I know all of you have done it in some way. It feels good. But also it comes back to you. It returns to you in some measure. Emily Cady says, the divine abundance manifested through you is given you for ministry to others. If you neither receive it indolently or retain it selfishly, you can never receive it. You can neither receive it indolently or retain it selfishly. If you attempt either, the flow of divine oil will be stopped. So, I have a good example of this. In 1973, at the age of 52, my father had a massive coronary when he was on his way to a business meeting in San Francisco. He collapsed in front of the World Trade Center. And when my mother got to the hospital, a man approached her. And he said, Mrs. Leonard, I need to tell you, I am the man that accompanied the paramedics to the hospital with your husband. He said, I saw him at a distance drop with his heart attack. And he said people wouldn't help him. They stepped around him and ignored him as if he was maybe a drunkard. He said, but as I approached him and I saw his face, he said, I know this man. This man is John Leonard. He said, Mrs. Leonard, your husband 20 years ago helped me. He said, I was an alcoholic. I had lost everything. I had lost my job, my family, and my friends. I had nowhere to turn. And he said, your husband helped me get back on my feet. He helped me find a job. And he said, I owe him my life. So 20 years later, here's this man bringing my father to the hospital to give us an opportunity to see him before he passed on Thanksgiving Day in 1973. So you don't know when these acts will come back to you. You have no idea when they come back, but they do. They will return to you. We don't know how or when, but we don't perform them in order to get something back, remember. So the other part about giving in this way is that others are given the gift to pay it forward, to pass it along, and to share it, because they have a personal experience of receiving it. Again, the divine flow of divine oil. So we know that the divine flow of loving energy is universal, and it's an expression of the Divine Mother with its creation in divine mind. So the title of my talk is WWDMD. So you're all familiar with WWJD. Remember, what would Jesus do? Well, WWDMD is, what would Divine Mother do? When faced with an opportunity to express a kindness, what would Divine Mother do? How can we manifest it not only randomly, but non-randomly through shifting our consciousness to one of natural expression of the Divine Mother within? So let's get quiet in that question for a few moments as we go into meditation. I ask you to get comfortable in your seats. Breathe. Breathe in. Breathe in the Divine Mother Spirit, and breathe out the action and manifestation of it in your world. And as we settle into our seats and listen to our breath, we know that we have an opportunity in every moment to express the Divine Mother, the spirit of love and grace and kindness, both randomly, as that moves in us, and non-randomly, as we make a commitment to be kind, to share ourselves, to express our divine nature with others. And so let's just sit quietly with that for a moment. And be still and know that each one of us can express this energy